live from New York. We have basically a full 90 minutes of James Harden coverage coming at you. It's first things first.
That's true.
Today,
Wall-to-wall beard.
the one-time Thunder, one-time Rocket, one-time Net, and now one-time 76er as he opts into his contract so that Philly can explore trade options. Bill Simmons, friend of the show, tweeting that Harden is now the champion of 21st century trade requests, has 50% more than Kyrie. Brew, are you surprised by this move?
Absolutely. I don't know that anybody wasn't surprised. All right. I mean, this came out of nowhere. It hit all of us like a sucker punch. All right. But when you look back, you do see hints. Christmas Day, the report comes out that, Harden might go back to Houston. Why? Why does that report come out? You know, after the playoff game when he scored, 45 points? And he talks about how much he's sacrificed this year. And then later on in the playoffs, he talks about wanting basketball freedom. Like, all of these are hints that you put together now and you see what he just did and you say, okay, wow, maybe he's been thinking this way for a while. And look, we'll get into why he's, opted in. We'll talk about that in a few moments. But here's the thing. There were reasons that he did it, which I understand, but he didn't have to go nuclear and demand or request the trade. You could have just opted in because he's going to be in the same situation next year. No matter where he goes, whether he stayed in Philly, goes to the Clippers, goes to the Heat, wherever, he's still going to be a free agent next year because he can't get extended.
Right.
So why not stay with the MVP? If I'm a great point guard, guess what I want? A great big man. You got that, and you got pieces around you. So he's running, even though I understand some of the reasons he did it, he is running. I called him a runner. I really ripped him yesterday. I called him a runner when things get tough. Maybe not that strong, but he's got running tendencies.
Yeah. All right. By the way, when Bruce says he ripped him yesterday, this, of course, came out. Yeah, I was going to say, that was on the radio show. Because
7 to 10 p.m. Eastern, Fox Sports Radio.
Yeah, that's where you can get a little preview. If news breaks between the end of our show and before 10 p.m. Eastern, you get a preview of it there.
I got to get my opinion out.
No, it was great. I totally understand. All right, so I want the audience to understand why this happened. So what happened here? So if you remember last year when Harden oddly declined the $47 million option, then signed this 2-year extension, people were like, was there tampering? And people were angry at Philadelphia. Philly then got dinged for tampering, but not with Harden, with P.J. Tucker and Daniel House. And it was some of the harshest tampering penalties the NBA has given out since the Minnesota guy, Joe Smith. Joe Smith, thank you. It was multiple second-round picks, millions of dollars. So Philadelphia told James Harden's camp, we are not, and it's weird, I didn't even know this rule because he was a Sixer already, we're not allowed to talk to you until Friday. And that incensed James Harden.
What?
I'm just telling you, that's what happened. I'm not. Other people have reported that. I can also report that.
There's no workaround on that? Like, we can't tell you the offer. Our offer's right here.
Been burned.
I got to go into the bathroom.
Done that for years.
Correct. Teams have done that for years. And so maybe one could make the argument that's what Harden's camp expected them to do. But they weren't going to do it. And I would in defense of the Sixers, you might be like, well, we just suffered these penalties 1 year ago.
Yeah.
If they say, we get caught or we do it again, and we're a repeat offender, you're going to take a first-round pick from us, which is very punitive. So whatever the rationale is, they weren't going to talk to him until today. That's kind of soured the waters. Then Houston didn't have an offer for him, and now because it looks like they're trying to get Fred VanVleet, so now he's kind of a man without a country. Right. Which, if I may bring it to Philadelphia, in a shocking twist, this is, I believe, the best case scenario for the Sixers. So what were the three options of what could happen for Harden? He goes to Houston, you get nothing in return. That's no good. He stays with you on a long-term expensive deal. If the news today was James Harden is signing with Philadelphia, 3 years, $120 million, are any of us saying that's great for them?
Nailed it.
No.
Well, you picked them, so maybe.
Right, but there's new information now, and we've seen another playoff meltdown and another year older. Instead, you now have his full contractual rights. You have him at a bargain, and you are going to be able to either trade him or get in a staring contest, something we have seen Daryl Morey do. And I just think it does warrant reminding everyone. When the Sixers traded for Harden 18 months ago, it was said on television that, well, yes, getting James Harden for Ben Simmons seems like a good deal, but he's about to sign the worst contract in NBA history. Because everyone thought he was going to get 5 years, $270. Instead, he finished that year, turned down $47 million, played for $32, and now is, now opting into $36. So I think Philly is in as good of a position as they could have hoped to be when it comes to Harden.
Brewer, you mentioned some of the breadcrumbs that Harden had left. So here's what he said after that Game 1 playoff victory. Take a listen. Here's his points per game when he was with the Rockets, out there crushing. Goes to the Nets, goes down, defers. Then Nets and Phillies defers some more. This year, deferred a lot. Maybe this is an oversimplification. So how much of this movement by Harden is quite simply, hey man, I like to score, and you're not allowing James Harden to be James Harden?
Inside, maybe there's a part of him that feels that way. I don't think that's a wise call if that's what he's thinking. Because first of all, nobody's letting you play like you played in Houston. All right, no team worth their salt. If you want to go to a bad team, which maybe he was willing to do in Houston so he could take all the shots, and even there, obviously, they didn't even make him an offer. But Ime Udoka wasn't going to go for that.
Also, he's not the same player.
He's not the same.
He doesn't finish the same. He doesn't have the same burst. He doesn't get to the bat.
He could be better than 47.
No, he can still score more.
Yes, 100%.
But what he has to understand is he was very effective. In Brooklyn, he was tremendous as a point guard.
Didn't he lead the league in assists this year?
This year he led the league. He is a great point guard. He averaged 21 points and 10 assists. And the talk is that he's going to the Clippers. There are people in the league that have been told that it's essentially going to happen. If he goes to the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are healthy, you're not going to average 33 points a game.
And there was reporting that he was initially interested in trying to find his way to Phoenix before Bradley Beal's acquisition closed that door. He's not going to. So
those days are over.
Listen, it is always hard for anybody, but particularly people that have been incredibly successful, to admit when some of the reasons they have not succeeded are of their own doing. And I think for James Harden that I do not put Brooklyn breaking down on him. I do put him getting there on him. He was in Houston. He quit on that team. He knew that with the potential with Kyrie and the volatility, he still tried to drive himself there. He then demanded his way out of there to Philadelphia, and knowing that it's not like that team's been to the conference finals once since Dr. J retired. And so to then 18 months later be like, I'm out on this as well. That NBA history does not treat kindly guys who demand trades and don't deliver a championship. That's it. It was not nice to Dwight. We'll see how it works for KD in Phoenix. For Kyrie and for Harden, it has not been good for them. Now, if you're Kawhi Leonard, if you're Shaquille O'Neal, if you're Anthony Davis, nobody cares about that because they all delivered a championship. But if you demand, I don't want to be here. You guys aren't doing right by me. Send me to place X. Get sent there, and then I don't want to be here. You guys aren't doing right by me. Send me somewhere else. And then do it again. People are going to start to say, do you need to take some accountability that it has not worked on your own here?
Here's what's happening. And James Harden, if it's just about regular season, if you take away the playoffs, there were no playoffs, you'd have a hard time finding people better than him. Like, he has had a regular season, his career has been exceptional.
I think it's one of the 10 best ever, you could argue.
Regular season.
Yep.
But now his greatness is starting to be overshadowed by two things. One is the poor performances in big playoff games. And two are he's running from tough situations. And there's explanations for all of them. All right. But still, in the long run, nobody's going to look at all the minutia and the detail and say, oh, yeah, but in Houston it was this, in Brooklyn it was this, in Philly it was this. They're just going to say, dude, 10 years from now, he asked to be traded 3 times, and 2 of the times he was in potential championship situations.
Let me take the, if I was Harden's lawyer. Houston is rebuilding.
Sure.
They're rebuilding. I want to win.
Okay.
I'm going to
But the way
quit.
he left was he didn't have to
trade
just flat
me.
out
We're
quit.
not going to. Okay, I'm going to get out there and dog it.
Yeah.
Now will you trade me? Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Brooklyn is a toxic situation, and he's being blamed for being the first one to recognize it.
But hold on,
and the second man, like, well, I'm going to quit on this game.
Hold on, but
If
defend this.
Kevin Durant, and I get it, there's reasons for all of them. But Kevin Durant, now he was injured during the time when Harden got traded, but he came back. You knew he was coming back, and he was ready to play in the playoffs. If you just have Harden and Kevin Durant, you still are a very good team that can contend.
But even so
you didn't have to jet.
Again, I don't blame him for the Brooklyn thing, but this one is not that defensible. He demanded his way there 18 months ago. It's not like they haven't put the pieces around. The guy he went to team up with, how good has he been? He just won league MVP. Yeah. Now, was Embiid disappointing in the second round? I would argue yes.
Yes.
But was Harden disappointing in those final 2 games? Unequivocally yes. There is an element of, and again, he was not out entirely on the idea of coming back to the Sixers. He was offended that they wouldn't give him a contract offer early, and that spoiled the relationship, which is, to me, again, shows you were probably looking for a way out, just like you were hoping Houston would give you a way out in that regard.
That's the thing. Once Houston didn't offer him anything, he had
in a weird
nowhere
spot.
to go in free agency.
Yeah.
And then
if
Philly
he
could
wants
have
to play
lowballed him.
Right, and if he wants to play for a good team and not Philadelphia, it has to be via trade.
Right.
Because if he also wants to make $30+ million, because no good team has the cap space.
Several possible suitors out there. Clippers have moved from a dark horse to a strong favorite here. Heat culture also on the board, Brew. And there's some tepid interest from New York City and the New York Knicks, which is baffling. Brew, where do you want to see Harden land?
Well, first, I got to address the Knicks. Why?
I don't know.
Why? Why are you even consider? If I'm the Knicks and I call Philadelphia, I've got one name on my lips: Joel Embiid.
Facts.
That's it. I don't want James Harden, and I get it. He's not as far gone as these guys were, but this is typical Knicks. Bring in the old big name that used to be a superstar. Steve Francis, anyone. Penny Hardaway, anyone. Tracy McGrady, anyone. Now, again, Harden's not where they were, but still, James Harden, Jalen, where are they going? They're not going anywhere. If I'm Philly, I want Jalen Brunson back for James Harden.
Okay, well,
so,
that's not happening.
right. So
Right.
what are we talking about with the Knicks? The place he should go of these groups, I mean, if I'm Philly, I'm like calling Miami. You want to give me Jimmy Butler?
Okay, but that's not happening.
Okay, then the place is the Clippers.
For who?
Period. For Norman Powell,
Okay.
Marcus Morris,
Yeah.
and Terrence Mann and some draft picks.
So
That's
He's
it.
thrilled
here's
hearing that.
No,
the
actually, I think with Ty, I don't think they'd be any worse than they are with James Harden.
Okay, so
They can make it to the second round of the playoffs and get beat just like they did.
I
last year.
understand everyone is saying the Clippers, and I think he might end up on the Clippers ultimately. I think that it will be August and he will still be a Sixer.
Oh.
I think it will be September and he will still be a Sixer. Unless there is, and I can show you a 3-team trade in a moment, not yet, but a Damian Lillard component here could speed it up. I fully believe that both of these things are true. Daryl Morey and the Sixers are, in earnest, shopping James Harden and honoring his trade demand, and they are not taking pennies on the dollar, and they are not doing anything that they believe takes them 1% backwards in a chase of a championship. And we have seen Daryl tell a player with 4 years left on his contract, we're waiting. I absolutely think it is on the board. He starts the season in Philly because it is James sitting out the year wouldn't be a career ender, but it would be an ender of him making big money in this league. He'd be then now 35, having missed a year. And if this dispute started over money, he's not going to do that. So I
But
think.
didn't it feel like Ben was a willing participant in sitting out? Like, oh, sit out? Great. Sounds good to
Yes,
me,
but
Ben Simmons.
he was not a willing participant in waiting to be traded, is my point. He wanted to be traded, and Daryl said, I'm waiting. Everyone was like, oh, take this trade from Indiana, take this trade. And he said, no, I'm going to wait and try to get a star. Got James Harden, so, I guess be careful to a degree. But that trade worked out for Philly. But there is a trade involving the Clippers. But I think Daryl is going to do what he always does, which is look for stars. So, Brew, it is similar to what you said, but it's a 3-team trade. The Clippers get Harden. The Sixers get Dame. The Blazers get Maxey, Powell, Zubac, and a first from Philly and a first from the Clippers. I think that is a pretty fair trade. And if you are Philly, you are then keeping Tobias Harris, who does have value even if he's overpaid. You are not sending away multiple draft picks, just one. But you are losing Harden and Maxey, obviously, but then you get Dame. If you're the Clippers, it gives you a point guard. So I think that one.
That's not bad, but here's the thing. If I'm the Clippers, I don't want to give up Zubac because, again, I think you need size in the West. And Zubac is good. And then if you're Portland, you've already got Yusuf Nurkic.
Okay, so if you want to switch out Zubac for Marcus Morris,
threw it in for salaries.
But you could do Marcus Morris instead because he's an expiring. You could do Covington.
Right.
But that's the
and
bones
then
of it.
the question, too, is this. And I've said Maxey and Tobias Harris for Dame, so I get that. I like Maxey. The question is, do the Blazers want him? Because their 3 young stars, wannabe stars, are all guards. They all play the same position.
So can I throw a much more...
You got another one.
Galaxy brain one at you. All right, because if we operate under the premise that Daryl is going to want an all-star caliber guy, you look around the league, it's like, well, I hear Zach LaVine might be available.
Yeah.
I don't think that trade's going to happen. You hear Trae Young might be available. That would be fun, but I don't think Atlanta is trading Trae Young for James Harden. I just don't think they're doing it. All right, Brew, don't instantly negatively react to this.
This is great.
Show the trade. What about James Harden and Karl Anthony Towns? You can give up a first-round pick as well. So Karl Anthony Towns. So from Minnesota's perspective, they need a point guard. Mike Conley's, Wild's his age. They obviously have uber invested in Rudy Gobert, and Anthony Edwards is your combo guard scorer. If you're Philly, it almost would force Embiid to do what you want him to do more, be more on the block, doing your old school Moses Malone, because Karl Anthony Towns is going to be shooting threes and revolutionizing the game.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Right.
Maxey's your primary ball handler.
I like that.
Karl Anthony Towns, you're big. Come on. That's something.
Well, first of all, for Minnesota, I get it. You're not going anywhere now, but you're certainly not going anywhere with that either. Now it's not horrible, but I don't know about Towns and Embiid together either. I need the twin towers in today.
Interesting.
I need size,
It's
but do I
like
need
at least
twin towers?
fascinating to consider. And
I like LaVine for Harden though. Where's Chicago? They need to just be exciting. They're not gonna win anything. So LaVine and DeMar don't work.
I don't think that moves the needle for Philly. I think we can't say we can talk about Harden's playoff issues, but at least we've seen him in them. Like, we don't know what LaVine's playoffs issues would be, and so I don't think that makes them closer at all.
I like the Karl Anthony Towns trade.
It's interesting. You would. You would. I'm just going to leave
What
it
does
at
that
that.
mean?
I'm just going to let it.
You like to do. Yeah,
I'm
that
just going to
was
let
rude.
it simmer.
That was you.
I'm going to let your mind,
apology.
your imagination.
Somebody
run
get
wild.
this man a crumble cookie so he's not being so mean to everybody.
What does Harden's trade demands?
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.